Shadows sliced through the water like invisible blades. The net tightened, and the turtle sank another inch. A distant echo announced sharks, and the dolphin who had found her knew he had two options: turn away or fight against time. He chose the latter. The sea looked calm, but it was a lie. Beneath the blue skin, the current dragged debris and ropes that snared everything they touched. Alma, a sea turtle seasoned by years of travel, was suddenly caught. Her flippers beat with force, and the plastic answered with a sharp pull that cut off her movement. She tried to rise to the surface for air. The net bit her in place. She sank a little more, with that slowness that forces fear to stay and watch. Hundreds of meters away, Kael moved with his pod. His voice was a clear, playful whistle. Suddenly, he noticed a dull, uneven sound, like blows against a soft door. Without thinking, he changed course. The other dolphins followed the fish, Kael followed the sound. It led him to a tangle of ropes, knots, and pieces of buoy. In the center, Alma's eyes glowed with a mixture of exhaustion and defiance. Kael circled once, assessing. The plastic was thick and tightened by a branch hooked to the bottom. He gave a short click, a signal that meant "OEICU." Alma could not respond, but her gaze fastened on him, as if holding on to an invisible rope. Kael tested with his snout. He pushed. Nothing. He tried with his tail. Nothing. He bit. A sharp pain crossed his gum, a strand cut a small line. He pulled back for a moment, not from fear, but to think. Around him, marine dust particles floated like snow. The deep sound of a shark vibrated against his side. Not close yet, but aware. Kael rose for air and came back with more strength. He circled the net until he found a key cord, one that tightened the rest like a central column. He threw himself against it with a hard blow. The cord vibrated, loosened slightly. Alma took advantage and moved her right flipper, freeing it by millimeters. Tiny victories. The Shirkaeuro's call came again, closer this time. Kael clicked rapidly, a message in his language that meant, "Euro hurry, but don't Euro T break." Euro. The current shifted and pushed the mass toward a submerged rock. Kael saw an opportunity. He dove, dragged part of the net against the rough edge. The plastic fibers began to fray. Alma felt partial relief, the pressure on her shell eased. She tried to rise. The pull stopped her. Kael understood, the branch at the bottom still anchored the trap. With calculated moves, he shoved his snout between the net and the branch and twisted until he forced a gap. Pain burned his gum again, but this time the rope gave way with a hollow snap, as if the sea itself exhaled. They surfaced together. Alma drew a long breath, the first clean one in minutes. The air tasted of metal and salt. Kael breathed too and, without a second lost, dove again. Now the shark carved circles in the water. It did not attack. It observed. It measured. Kael switched tactics. He swam around Alma, whipping up a whirl of sand. The cloud blurred the predatory Euro's vision. He used the chance to scrape another section of net against coral stone. Fibers cracked. Alma's left flipper broke free. The shark approached, curious. Kael struck it with his tail across the snout. He didn't aim to wound, only to surprise. Surprise acts like a break. The predator pulled back just enough. Alma, alert, twisted her body inside the tangle. That tiny spin loosened another knot. Her shell breathed. The net, however, tightened around her tail. The balance between moving forward and staying still was a tightrope. Kael gave a long whistle, calling for help across the distance. His pod heard, but they were far. He had to buy time. On the Euro's edge he spotted a piece of buoy half buried in algae. If he tore it free, the weight might shift and slacken the trap. He bit, pulled. The buoy ripped away, and the net lifted an inch. Alma rose slightly, enough to snatch another breath. The shark returned, this time with a probing attack. Kael spun with the precision of a life spent in water and deflected it sideways. The predator swerved, irritated but not committed yet. The net still held one rear flipper. It was the last anchor. Kael studied it and found the main cord cinching it like a tourniquet. He positioned himself diagonally, filled his lungs, and slammed it 3 times like hammer blows. The cord loosened on the second. On the third, it split. Alma felt her body finally her own. She rose with force, with the impulse that only appears when freedom opens like a door. They broke the surface almost together. The sea greeted them with light. Foam painted their faces white for an instant. Alma breathed deep. So did Kael. Just then, 3 new shadows cut the water, more sharks. The noise of the struggle had drawn company. Kael spun and unleashed the alert sequence his pod had known since youth. The reply arrived as a vibration in the water, a chorus of whistles rushing closer. Until they arrived, survival was up to them alone. Kael placed himself beside Alma and nudged her, not downward, but toward a channel between 2 rocks. The narrow passage limited the predator angles of attack. The sharks hesitated. That hesitation was worth minutes. Minutes were worth lives. Kael stirred another whirlpool, thrashing the sand with his tail. Alma, freer now, helped by twisting her body so the loose net rattled and distracted. Sometimes, sound confuses as much as sight. The first serious charge came from below. Kael saw it too late. He thrust his body in and struck the Shurka's flank with his head. The impact stunned it for a second. The second was enough for Alma to slip through the channel. Kael followed, his snout burning. Behind them, the shadows wavered, the path was too tight for their size. Crossing meant scraping rock. Rock meant wounds. The ocean teaches rules without words. At last, like a silent wave, the dolphin pod appeared. 10, 15, 20 sleek bodies spread in fluid formation. They surrounded Alma and Kael like a moving wall. The sharks measured, calculated, and, by simple economy, withdrew. Too much effort for too little certainty. The sea returned to its usual murmur, but the air still smelled of tension. Alma floated, drained, with shredded net hanging from her shell. A couple of young dolphins approached curiously, but Kael waved them off. This was no game. Gently, he pushed the turtle toward shallower water, where the surf could hold her without draining her strength. There, calmly, he worked on cleaning the remnants. Using the same rock as a knife, he scraped until the last fibers fell away. Alma was free at last. No loud celebration followed. Only a vast silence, shaped like gratitude. Alma dipped a few meters, tested her flippers. They worked. Pain lingered, but it did not rule. She rose again to Kael's level. They had no words, but they had gestures. The turtle edged her shell closer. The dolphin brushed its rim with his snout. In the sea, that contact means a thank you in a way never forgotten. The pod resumed its route. Kael lingered a little, in case fear needed time to fade. Alma swam toward the current she knew, the one leading to open water. She paused once and looked back. Not from dependence, but memory. Then she slipped into blue. Kael took one last wide loop, checked for more stray nets, and sprinted forward. Within reach of his voice, he heard the Potero's chorus, those short phrases that mean ecom, we go on. That night, the ocean changed skin. The wind brought rounded waves and smelled of plankton. Kael swam with his kin and sometimes felt the faint pulse in his gum where the cord had cut. Not decision mark. At times, the young asked him to tell the story. He did not use words. He repeated the sequence of sounds he had used with Alma, the whistle of I saw you, the click of hold on, the burst of now. They copied him, laughing. They would learn. Far away, Alma glided down to a sandy bed where currents shaped dunes underwater. She closed her eyes. Remembered the tug, the fear, the snap of rope breaking. Remembered the whirlpool that shielded her, the snout that nudged her at the right moment. She opened her eyes and followed the cold trail that promised clean waters. On the way, she sidestepped an old net sleeping on the seabed. Not by chance, but because she now saw it differently. She stopped, shoved it into a crack with her shell, and left an invisible warning for others: do not pass here. In the days that followed, Kael changed small habits. Before, he always raced ahead of the group, cutting water like an arrow. Now he alternated that role with a new one, watching the edges. He checked buoys, branches, bags. If something floated oddly, he sniffed, measured, pushed it aside. Not a savior. A dolphin who had learned that the sea is cleaned by watchful eyes too. The pod noticed, and without words, several began to imitate. Alma also adjusted. Crossing murky zones, she surfaced first and calculated the current. She chose the side with less trash, even if it was longer. Her large body traced new lines in the water, as if drawing safer paths for other turtles. She could not undo every net in the world, but she could teach the sea, with her route, which way was less dangerous. Sometimes fear returned, a pulse racing for no reason. Then Alma repeated the gesture she had learned in the trap: breathe, look, move slow with intent. Panic tightens knots, calm loosens them. That thought clung to her shell as another invisible mark, but real. One afternoon in strong current, Kael heard a thump like the first. His body tensed. He traced it, ready for the worst. This time it was only a branch banging rock. He smiled, if dolphins can smile. Still, he shoved it into a crack so it would not anchor another net. Then he sprinted back to the Potero's front. The horizon was clear, and the water, though not perfect, glimmered with promise. The ocean remained ocean, wide, unpredictable, beautiful, dangerous. Nothing changed, and everything did. Kael and Alma did not seek each other again, but they were bound by something stronger than fear. A gesture at the right moment. A yes where a no would have been easy. A story that, told to others, does not boast of heroism but teaches practice. Moral: helping in time saves 2 levisa euro, the one you rescue, and your own euro, because it teaches you to conquer fear with calm and determination.